Hello, welcome back to Sharks Happen. My name is Hal, I'm your host, going over shark attacks from the 1900s till present, mostly large sharks. And we're going to start out, we're going to head over to Crescent Beach, and that is in Florida. The date, November 2nd of 1975. Scott Hurst is 18 years old, and he is out doing some surfing. He's about 45, 50 feet from shore, so he's pretty close to shore. Must be pretty shallow water. He's laying on his board. Face down on his board, and he's got his feet up in the air. So the legs are not laying out behind the board. He's got his feet in the air. And suddenly a shark jumps out of the water and grabs him by the foot, pulling him off of his board. And now he says the shark is trying to drag him backwards, and he grabs onto his board, and holding onto his board, he kicked the shark once. The shark let go and took off. Scott went in, got help. He ended up with a 10-inch laceration to his left foot. There was several severed tendons in his foot, and it took 34 stitches to be able to sew him up. He probably had to go through rehabilitation and things, but I'm going to put this down as an attack, not an attempt to predate. They say by a 6-foot shark. They just don't know what kind. Could be just about anything. I mean, probably leapt its head out of the water more than anything than breaching, but got up there so that it could get his foot. They could see its foot was up above the water, and the shark went up and got it. That's kind of a different attack on these surfers, that, you know, this shark was after his foot. So they say 6 foot. We don't know what kind of shark. We're going to put down as an attack, not an attempt to predate. Okay, now we head over to Boa Viagem Beach, and that is in Recife, Brazil. And the date on this is December 13th of 1994. Tiago de Lima, he is out with friends and he's doing some surfing. It's in the afternoon. He had just taken a wave in, surfed a wave in, and he's paddling his way back out when a shark bites him in the right leg, pulling him off of his board. And now he's in the water, and he looks as he's underwater as the shark comes to bite him a second time in the same leg. So he got bitten, it dragged him off the board, and it came back and bit him a second time. He said he was able to see the tail and the dorsal fin, probably a smaller shark, probably around 6 to 8 foot shark. Bit him a second time, and then it just went on its way. He gets in, and he ended up with about a 7-inch laceration across the leg, on his right leg, and he had other cuts from the second bite. He ended up needing to have high doses of antibiotics to fight secondary infection, and he also had to have himself some cosmetic surgery, some plastic surgery to take care of the wounds. So there was probably some flesh removed in the process. No word on the recovery on that. I'm assuming, you know, they recovered in whatever time he was supposed to. He was not supposed to be surfing where he was. That area of the beach, it was off limits to surfing and swimming because of the high likelihood of running into a shark, just like he did. So, you know, I don't know whether he knew or not that he should be there or not, but he wasn't supposed to be there, and he ended up getting bitten by a shark. We're going to put this down as an attack, not an attempt to predate. We don't know what kind of shark. Okay, now we're going to head over to Alawalu, which is Maui, Hawaii, and the date is January 1st of 2002. Thomas Holmes is 35 years old. He is out snorkeling with his girlfriend, Monica Boggs, and they were out in Alawalu on the west side of Maui snorkeling the day before, but the visibility wasn't the best. So they were happy to see when they returned. They had good visibility out there. So they get out there, and it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They're about 100 yards from shore in 40-foot deep water. They're at the surface snorkeling, and they're in 40-foot deep water. Monica looks over. They had seen about 30 or 40 turtles in the area, and I'm sure that's not an uncommon thing when you're over off of some of the Hawaiian islands. And Monica had looked and saw a shark about 30 or 40 feet away swimming upwards towards them, and she screamed. She's underwater, you know, she's in the water, but she screamed, gets Thomas's attention. He sees the shark, and they start swimming back to shore. Sounds like they don't make it very far. They're swimming along. Thomas turns himself around to now see the shark only 4 feet away from him, coming at him with its mouth wide open. He has just time to pull his legs up to his chest. and he gets his legs up to his chest, and he's bitten in the right thigh and in the right buttocks. So he gets, I think he also had some cuts to his other thigh. So both his thighs get some wounds. His buttocks gets about a 2-inch gash, and he's able to swim himself to shore. They keep swimming after this. He punched the shark a couple times. The shark let go and swam down and away. So the shark left after it was hit a couple times. And he's swimming along with Monica now to get back into shore. They get about 60 feet from shore. They run into some other snorkelers. They warn them about the sharks, and then they swim the rest of the way in. Thomas actually swims his way into shore. He gets in. It took 35 sutures to go ahead and sew him up. They say this was a 6 or 7 foot tiger shark, so we'll put this down as an attack, not an attempt to predate by a tiger shark. Now we're going to head over to Fluted Cape, which is South Bruny Island, Tasmania, Australia, and the date is July 30th of 1975. Bobby Slack, he is 37 years old, and he is down doing some hookah diving for abalone. So he's got the hose hooked up to him. He's working off of a 35-foot boat, the Shellfish, I believe it's called. He's on a 35-foot boat, but there's a dinghy with his deckhand. It's on a dinghy where he is diving, and he usually ties the air hose onto the boat, onto the dinghy, and then he'll pull up the slack so that all the weight of the hose is not down on the diver. Well, this day it's totally calm, so glassy seas, the hose is just floating on top of the water, so he's not worried about it. They're in 40-foot deep water. It's just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and suddenly that slack rope, the hose that was sitting on top of it, goes tight. Boom, tightens up, and he looks over and he can see that there's a huge shark on top of the water right where the hose is tightened up to. And he says from the back of the shark that he could see it was at least 15 or 16 feet from what he could see of the shark. He couldn't see the shark's head. So now he quickly pulls up and races over, starts up and races over to where that spot is, and all he can see is just a pool of blood in the water. So not knowing what to do, he decides to take the dinghy back to the boat. He does not pull up on the hose. He takes the dinghy back to the boat, and he calls into the fish market, which they're probably going to catching this abalone for. Lets them know that Bobby has been attacked by a shark. So the guy asked him, "Did you pull up the hose?" And they're like, "No." He's like, "No." He says, "You got to go back there and pull up the hose." I wouldn't be looking forward to this either. So Tony Hitchens, he takes and he gets back in the dinghy and he goes over there and he pulls up on the hose. He might have done this in the boat, but it sounds like he went back in the dinghy. Pulls the hose up, and all that comes up with the hose is the harness, which is still in one piece, and the dive belt is with it, and it's still attached. So this shark took and grabbed him and shook him right out of his weight belt and out of his harness, and all that was left was a green glove. The green glove, the harness, and the dive belt. That's all that they found. The dive belt and harness had the scratches on there that, you know, great whites cause when they do these biting, so he knew it was a great white. The size of it alone was probably a great white. It was a monster fish that had the guy. So they only had this green garden glove as the only piece of clothing they had of his, which is kind of unusual to me because they said that he wore the green garden gloves underneath red industrial gloves. So somehow he lost that glove, but they couldn't find the other glove and couldn't find anything else of him. They'll put this down as an attack, a predation by a great white shark. Okay, now we head over off of Rottnest Island, which is Western Australia. The date, July 22nd of 2011. George Wainwright is 32 years old. He is out doing some scuba diving, and he's in the water by himself. He's with a husband and wife couple that are on the boat now, and they're keeping an eye, the Branners, they're keeping an eye on the water to make sure there's no sharks around. So they probably all spot for each other when they're in the water, is what I'm thinking. And George is down in the water, and suddenly they see bubbles. They see a lot of bubbles. There's a commotion going on somewhere down under the water. Don't know how deep, but all I know is that shortly after those bubbles, the body of George pops to the surface with some awful injuries. This Sounds like an attempt to predate. It sounds like it removed some, if not flesh, some limbs too. All that they say is there was horrific injuries to him when he floated to the surface. I've seen two different reports that the Wainwrights, the Branners went ahead and grabbed him and pulled him into the boat. One of the reports said that they actually saw a 10-foot great white as they were pulling the remains into the boat. But others had seen a 10-foot great white also, so they believe this is a 10-foot great white that did this attack. He didn't make it. He didn't even survive till he got to shore. I don't know what the injuries are. I'm thinking this is an attempt to predate with what they're saying about the body, but all I can find to corroborate this is just one of those, API, UPI, one of those pool reports. So I have a ton of different newspaper clippings, but they all say the same thing basically. I'll post what I have went through on into the story, but there's not much information. If anybody knows what those wounds were to Mr. Wainwright, or if, I don't even know if coroner's reports are public information over there as they are here in some states like Florida. Coroner's reports, anybody can get those. It's public information. So I don't know whether it is or not. Right now I'm going to put down as an attempt to predate with a question mark next to it because I'm not positive. But that's my first instinct by, what they're saying. The thing is, what are they not saying? So hopefully we'll get some information on Wainwright. We're going to put this down as an attack, attempt to predate, 10-foot great white shark. Okay, we're going to finish our unprovoked attacks over at Second Beach, which is Eastern Cape Province, South Africa. The date, January 24th, 2009. Sikhanyiso Bangilizwe, he was out, he's 25 years old, and he was out doing some swimming at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon at Second Beach. Sikhanyiso Nduva, he was actually in the water. He says that Sikhanyiso, he was out further than him, and a shark came up and started attacking him. He said a wave went by and all of a sudden he could hear screams. So he could see that the shark was on his friend, and he went back to shore to get help. When the help finally got there, there was nothing they could do, but there was a second person that was in the water, a second witness, and he grabbed onto a rubber duck, and it sounds like an actual rubber duck. So a floating rubber duck, and he grabbed the rubber duck and started paddling his way out. And he gets to his buddy, and he can see that his hand is already removed, and his back, and part of his back and his buttocks are removed. So I've heard that he's been bit in half, or he's been bit in three pieces. But at this time, only his hand and part of his back and butt have been removed. And the shark is on the other side of this witness, heading towards his friend. So he ends up getting, he says that the nose of the rubber duck scared the shark away. The shark went away, and he must have went back in because by the time the rescuers got there, he was bit into 3 pieces. His shoulder and the arm was also removed, so he lost a hand, he lost his shoulder and his arm, he lost part of his back and his buttocks. And the people in the boat that came out to rescue him, the one guy said it's the worst thing he ever saw. You could see right into his body, and I'm thinking that's from the back. Usually they see that from the front. When you go ahead and put in shark attack injuries, and then you go ahead and hit images, one of the first ones that pops up is a big hole in somebody's chest. It looks like a one bite by a shark that ripped a hole out of the chest. Well, it sounds like the same type of thing happened to his back, but I've seen it bit him in half, bit him in 3 places, or 3 pieces. Either way, it's an attempt to predate. It was multiple strikes by this shark. They don't know what kind of shark. They said that they were thinking it was a tiger shark, but others were saying they were thinking it was a bull shark. So no telling which type of shark it for sure was. We do know that it was an attack and an attempt to predate. Don't know what kind of shark. Okay, now before we finish off our show with You Don't Hear That Every Day, I wanted to go over a couple things. First thing is that, let me open this thing up. I did some golfing when I was down in the Keys. I hadn't golfed in a while. I mean, I'd golf once a year or twice a year, but now I want to golf again, so I had to go out and buy my golf balls that I used to get back in the 90s. See my little shark? These are Greg Norman golf balls. I think I bought like 3, 4, 5 boxes of these already, and just so you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but there's the little shark. Had I have my shark on my golf ball? So there are sharks on golf courses when I'm out there. Wanted to go over real quick. I saw this, somebody had sent me a clip of, it turned out to be a huge whale. And back by the tail of the huge whale on top, there was this huge cutout on it. Looked like a bite mark. So then I watched a little bit of the video, and they pointed out some triangle-shaped marks that are near this gouge on this whale, claiming that it's, you know, that proves its teeth and its triangular teeth. I don't buy that. I see nothing that would do that other than a boat propeller, a large ship. Probably ran right through that tail when they were in perpendicular, 90-degree angle, and just went right through it is what I see. If there was something in the water, carnivorous, that was biting a whale like that, we would see dead whales and carcasses and stuff around. I'm not one that's into this. There's huge creatures out there. I mean, there's things that we don't know, but I'm not into, you know, the megalodon and all that kind of thing. They were trying to say that this shark would be the size of a whale, which would be true if it was their mouth, but I just think it's a huge prop from a large ship that ran through that. So I wanted to go over that real quick in case people have seen that. And then somebody else sent me 20 of the, you know, these shark encounters, and the first one was crazy. About a 12-footer, a 10 to 12-footer, a great white. Guy's in the water diving, and all of a sudden he turns to his left, and that shark is right up on his face. I mean, he's got his spear. He's obviously spear fishing. So you see him kind of put the spear out as the shark's going away, but the shark had already turned away, and the only thing that made the shark turn away was him looking at it. I'm wondering what it would have done if it didn't look at it. But now that the shark got away from him, it starts making runs at him from different angles, and he used his gun to be able to just point it at it and keep it. It was coming right at him the one time, put the gun in its face, and it just turned away last second. You know, that to me is like a territorial thing. That thing wanted to bite him bad. It wanted to get at him. And I was shocked that it turned away that first time. I'd also seen another diver. There's one where the diver's down, and he's down on the seafloor, and all of a sudden there's a great white, and it's probably a 12-footer, and you see its mouth right at his head. I mean, the mouth is right on his head. It just needs to open up its mouth and close, and it would bite his head off, but it didn't bother him. And it was very murky conditions, so who knows if he knew what it was until he got right there and decided it wasn't what he wanted. He just went on his way. Both of them were kind of poor visibility. But the shark that saw the guy in the video that I saw where it kept coming back, he definitely knew what he was coming after. So I don't think either one of them were like, you know, mistaken identity. I think both were curious as to what it was. One was wanted to, you know, investigate more, and the other one just went on its way. So you never know what they're going to do, but you know, that's why I would never dive. I don't want to turn and see a shark ever. And a great white shark is the worst one to see because they just scare the death out of me. You look at them and yeah. I don't want to run into that. So that's our story of that. I wanted to go over those two things real quick, and now we're going to get into April 1969. Mr. Jack Horner, little Jack Horner. Jack is with his dad, and they end up hooking a 9-foot shark. And it sounds like little Jack is the one who reeled it in, but his dad helped him get it in. They get it in and they get it up on a hook. And Jack, for some reason, is the one who's taking it off the hook. And the shark drops and it lands on his foot and it cuts his foot. He ends up needing 10 stitches for what a dead shark did to his foot. Definitely a land shark incident. So, you know, you don't hear about those every day, at least not on this show. We go over some sometimes, but this is another crazy one to where shark's already done. It's hanging on a hook, but, you know, releasing the hook, thing fell on his foot and cut him. So, you know, that's like my shark teeth I have here. I keep them up and out of the way. I don't want to cut myself with them. Every time that I take and do anything with them, I end up poking myself. I'm bleeding with them. They're so sharp. So, you know, shark teeth are no jokes. So even if they fall on you when they're dead, it hurts. So that's our story of Jack Horner, and that is our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow, which is Monday, probably around 3:30 or 4, I shall be starting to work with DHL and their tech team, and we're going to see about getting them into my shopping cart for the shop on if you want any merchandise. It's at www, I don't know that anybody uses that www dot, I never do, but sharkshappen.com, just put that in there and you'll go there. And you can buy a shirt, hat, you know, there's pens there, so, you know, that's if you want it. Hopefully tomorrow on Monday evening, I will have DHL all hooked up, and we'll get some of our international fans some merchandise. But, you know, if I get that accomplished, then Tuesday you'll get another show. So hopefully I'll see you Tuesday. If not, I'll see you Wednesday. And remember, if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.